This is episode number 625 of the InnerFight podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the show, folks. Thanks a lot for tuning in, no matter where you are in the world. Hope that you're safe, staying home, doing loads of fitness, listening to loads of InnerFight podcasts. And of course, if you're in the UAE, I also hope that you're ordering from Smith Street Paleo, our show sponsors. And if you're not ordering from them, they are still delivering. You can get anything you want: pancake mix, waffle mix, snacks, meal plans. Do I sound like a market salesman? Good. If you don't want to buy anything, that's absolutely fine. Why not hop over to smithstreetpaleo.com and cook for yourself. Use all the recipes over there. Experiment during this time of lockdown where maybe you've got a little bit more time, patience, or inclination to cook for yourself. Loads of really good recipes over there. Give the guys a shout. Hello at smithstreetpaleo.com. They'd love to hear from you. This week's show, Sunday show, is all about an adventure that Tom Walker and I went on along with Jack a few years ago. And actually we spoke every Sunday. We do a Sunday sessions with the InnerFight Endurance members. And this is a recording of that. We thought it'd be useful to put it out on the show. It's an adventure that we had. We got a lot out of it, a lot of different lessons. So this is Tom and I, and then there's some questions from the people that joined that talk. It was a Zoom talk that we did. If you want to get involved in those, drop us an email to endurance@innerfight.com. But this is our adventure of crossing Wahiba on fat bikes. Hope you enjoy the show. Stay home, stay safe. Fitness is the cure.
Which you can introduce a little bit more, mate, but it was your idea. I'll say that for a start. And it was, I've been looking at the workout file. It was 148 kilometers.
Yeah, I can't believe you're throwing me under the bus already and you expect this to go well for the next hour.
All downhill, all downhill.
Yeah, we'll just open this up. I think this might give it some context here. This was actually my first ultra. I'd done some other ultras, baby ones, like 50Ks and stuff. And then I actually entered this race, which was called Transomania in 2014. It was the first and the last time this race has ever been run. And if you can see the screen there, it was 3 different options: 285, 200, or 130. It started just south of Muscat and basically then entered after going through the mountains of Wahiba Sand. And because I was a novice ultra runner, obviously chose the elite category and started, as you can see on my watch. Quite interesting. I was thinking about this in just like 6 years. You can see the watch I'm wearing there is a Polar. All the data I got from that really was the time. That is a GPS watch, but there was no such thing as GPS routes just 6 years ago. And so I actually have no idea how we navigated. It started at 2 minutes. Well, that was 2 minutes to 9. It started at 9 p.m. And long story short, basically, this here is the first time I saw Wahiba after coming through all those mountains. I think it took us about 50 something hours to get across. No, a little bit less. Anyway, it was hot. And the sun, as you can see, it was damn hot. And this was Wahiba. And we'd done about 150K. And I was like, sweet, the mountains are gone. I think it was about 8,000 meters elevation. The mountains are gone. This is going to be a piece of cake. All I have to do is run 145K through this desert. And it wasn't a piece of cake at all. It actually was, I don't know if it was because of what we'd been through already, but it was hell. And as you can see there, just after checkpoint 8 at about 160, 170 kilometers, I actually it was middle of the night, having all sorts of fun, hallucinating, and laid down for quick rest. And as you woke up to this car that's in the picture there as well, that rescued us at about 7, 8 o'clock that morning. I'd failed. It was shit. And I sat in that car till the end where it says the finish line. And literally, I'd been in the car about 2 minutes and I was like, I'm coming back here and I'm going to run across this whole desert. For those that love toes, they were my toes. First experience of getting a hot rod through one of my toes at the end. Nice French doctor. Did it to about 4 toes. It's actually super cool. It's super hot. So it just goes straight in through the blister and all the blood comes out and the toenail falls off a few months later. Good story. So a couple of years later, 2016, I gathered this group. I told them that I know this desert in Oman. Brilliant place, really scenic. It's going to be an amazing trip. We'll start at the desert part and we'll just run across it. So some of you might know Tom Otten. The guy with the bald head is a good friend of mine, Jack. Even managed to get my dad and his best beach hat. So he came along for the ride to support Jack's wife, Mignon. And we found this Bedouin, actually, because I didn't really know the way. We found this Bedouin in a petrol station just before the start and paid him some money and asked him to show us the way. And I needed to run across it. I needed to finish that race. I didn't have any interest to run from the mountains, to be honest, guys. I should have probably done the whole thing, but I was like 150 Ks is 148 Ks is enough. So yeah, I don't know why they believed me, but they believed me and I took them there and we went across it, just the 3 of us. It was wild. It was everything I remember it was. Hot, humid in parts, just, yeah. It looks like that the whole way. It's not even nice to look at, to be honest. It's like, it's just, I'm sure you'll say something about that later, mate. And yeah, we made it to the end with a lot of sort of pain and suffering along the way. But one of the things that we spoke about along the way is fat bikes. And we started having this conversation, as you do, like, could we ride across this? Surely it'd be faster on a bike. And I was like, yeah, there's this thing called fat bikes. And the guys, anyway, fast forward 3 years or 4 years. And I think that's when I said to you, mate, pretty much like I said to those guys back there, people are going to stop trusting me sometime soon when I thought it's a good idea to go somewhere. But I was like, hey, mate, this will be good. And Jack was obviously with us on the run. And he was a keen cyclist as well and up for an adventure. And so when I called him and said, mate, let's do this, doesn't show much emotion. He goes, yeah, I'll be all right. And you'd only just sort of got here, hadn't you?
Yeah, I got here in June, start of June, so 2 months in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, mate, I think you should, the next one is the bike. Like, I know you did a lot of, we both did loads of training on these bikes. So you did a little bit last week. Maybe talk a little bit about the bike, I guess.
These bikes, they look easy enough to ride, and they really are on solid surface. And they're very comfortable. It's just like riding a mountain bike, if anyone knows what that's like. So we said, yeah, we're going to need to get these fat bikes. And they too arrived at the gym, I think maybe in the week before. And did you go for a test spin around Al Qudra? I think you might have. Yeah,
Jack and I went and literally we went over the back at Al Qudra and went up and down a few dunes. And I was like, that seems all right, mate. And he was like, I'm going to go for a coffee. And I was like, so I think we did about 10K.
Yeah. So that's probably another reason I should trust you less, because I took that as I'll be fine. So I literally rode this thing around the top floor of the gym once and like sort of kicked the tires and said, seems pretty solid. How hard can it be? But the reason the tires are so wide and you've got such wide bars is because obviously, which we should know, but you don't realize until you have to do it, riding on sand is just a whole nother level. So I probably wish I'd done a few test rides before, but it was quite cool going into the first part, not knowing, on a brand new bike, well, new to me, And also the other thing, we switched out. We weren't using mountain bike pedals, were we? We were using road race pedals on these things, which was a little bit interesting as well. So if you put your foot down, it took you like a minute to get all the sand out of your cleat to get it back in again, whereas obviously mountain bike cleats are designed to not collect sand and mud and things. So that was probably a bit of an error, but what can you do?
What can you do? So they were the bikes. And yeah, we obviously had fortunately managed to get together sort of one each. And then we pulled into the town, and literally we're in this is like, I think it was 5 years later. 3 years later, and I found the same Bedouin. We literally, remember, mate, we went into this shop, into this restaurant, because we wanted to get some food for the trip, and he was sat having his lunch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the, like, it was wild. And he's like, oh, I'll come with you. I was like, nah, mate, I've got it covered this time. I know exactly where we're going. He knew what we were going to do. And he saw the bikes in the back, and he's just looking at us going nuts. And yeah, good to see him though. I think, mate, the next part of the preparation, I think is, maybe you can make some commentary on this one. Let's see. Yeah, here we go.
This is the ultimate example of a leader being a leader right here. We were waiting to go. We weren't too rushed on time. We were quite relaxed, but we were getting something called regag made up, which I still to this day don't really know what it is, but it's like a pancake with cream cheese and honey in. And all we'd heard all trip on the way to this place is regag, regag, regag. So I think, how much did we order? We ordered like 12, maybe?
Yeah, I think we ordered about, 3 or 4 each, yeah. It was taking forever, wasn't it?
Well, these guys thought they'd made their year income because we just ordered 12 regag, and they can't have had the ingredients or something because it was taking ages. And I remember walking back in, and I didn't know where you were, and went to the back, and there you were, helping them make it.
Getting it done. So we got that food, bit of food from the other place, and mate, this is actually this is what you saw first. So yeah. I don't know.
This is my best memory.
You felt on that when we drove into that. The road just runs out.
Like, you'd obviously been there. You knew what it looked like, what to expect. For me, I had no idea. I just was told that you're going to ride your bike for a while. So I was quite happy, but I actually didn't really think about what to expect until we started. There was a bit where you cross over and it says Desert Safari Camp, and you sort of go off like the main roads of Oman, and then you start driving through. I remember seeing one of those Toyota Jeeps with a camel in the back, and I was like, oh yeah, now we're where we should be. And then the road literally just ran out. And this was about must have been 5:30 because we started at 6 in the evening, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was already hot. It was like 30, still 36, something like that, or maybe in the 40s.
Yeah,
because windy.
It was in August, right? It was sometime in August. Yeah.
And this was it. And this was like, I just remember looking at it and thinking, all right, we're just going to have to start to ride. And it really goes to what we're saying at the moment with this whole situation, is if you try and look at the whole thing, you're never going to get there. Like if you never try and see yourself to the end, it's not going to happen. So it was literally like, can you see as far as you can into the distance? We're going to ride to that point. And that was it. Off we went.
Then a few of the locals came, and obviously this picture I posted today, but they didn't know what the hell was going on. And I think their dad came and sort of tried to ask me what we're doing. And the easiest way to explain, like Wahiba, if you follow these sort of trails, at some point, if you keep going in the same direction that we're heading in, you'll hit the beach. So everyone you see, like I did it when we were running as well, they'd be like, what are you doing? We're like, we're just going to the beach, mate. Like, we're just going to the beach. So these kids were there. And then, mate, you'd organised a photo shoot. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, you spring this on me.
Classic InnerFight style. I should have known.
Lights and everything.
They were. I actually forgot about this part. Yeah, so we did. We rode for maybe not even 20 minutes, and next thing we were getting on the front cover of Ford magazine. This is part of the gig of having the Raptor in the background, which was kindly down to Carlin. But the deal was we had to pose for some pictures at the beginning, sometime during the middle, and one at the end. The end one was quite funny because none of us were that interested in it, but this one was quite cool.
Right, your hair looks good there, eh? It looks like...
I think the wind was on point, and obviously enough sand had gotten it that it was holding well. Two of us remembered our team kit to...
Marita was there.
A pro from Marita, yeah. You see that the guy on the right-hand side doesn't feature much, unfortunately, as we go on. If you have questions, you can ask at the end.
And then that was it. Like, that was obviously there's a bit of false lighting there from Carlin because he's a pro, but that was pretty it. Like, it got dark real quick, right? And I remember this is actually one of the only pictures that I can find with Brooksy in it. Brooksy came down, incredibly volunteered his time along with Carlin to drive the support vehicles. And I think like these trips are not possible without support. And it's always good to take guys that obviously you trust, you know, and you can tell them a way that you want to operate, and they'll just get on with it. You know, it's not complicated. And we thought we had a really good strategy. Like we'd go out the front and the cars would be behind because we didn't want the cars super close because it's annoying. So we said to the guys, we said, listen, we'll just ride. We've got like I think we had one bottle of water each.
Yeah,
we'll just ride. And when we need water, we'll just put our lights on flashing, and that'll be the signal. And they're like, yeah, that's great. So we're riding for, I don't know, we rode a couple of hours out the blocks, and I said to Tom, I said, mate, are you low on water? He's like, mate, I'm out. I've been out for like, I don't know how long. I was like, yeah, I'm out as well. I said, all right, let's go with the signal. So I reached around and put the bike light on flashing, and 15 minutes passed and nothing. And you could see, like, I'd turn around and I'd see the lights of the cars about 3K back, and 20 minutes passed and nothing. And I was like, we need water. And obviously, like, the sensible thing to do would have been just to stop, because then they would have caught up. But obviously we wanted to do this thing as fast as possible, blah, blah, blah. And they got there, and I just start saying to Brooksy, like, mate, what the fuck happened to the plan, mate? He's like, what plan? We could see you really well. Like, your lights were flashing. And I think when he said that, he was just like, oh, that was the plan. Yeah, it was wild, wasn't it?
It was that first hour, or maybe 90 minutes, felt so good. And then, yeah, I was like, okay, getting a bit low on water, but I was like, my biggest thing was just don't complain. Like, just keep your eyes forward, say nothing, and just pedal. And then I was like, at what point do I say, like, yeah, I'm gonna conk it in a minute because I'm out of water? I was quite relieved when you said to me, I'm out of water. I was like, oh, okay, good.
So I think, and in the night, I think it was still about, I don't know what it was. It was hot, whatever, who cares? And so we're like 2 hours in, completely dehydrated. And I think that's when, I don't know, mate, because you were closer to him, but that's when Giorgio first started having some problems.
Yeah, well, I think he'd already had them. I think Carlin had got delayed because he was having trouble with his gears. I think that was the start of Geargate. And then it just got progressively worse from there. And in the end, it was like, I think we basically rode off as a 3. And it was him like saying, oh, I'll catch you up all the time. And was it within maybe it was 4 or 5 hours in that we had our first man down?
Yeah. I think when you're quite close to it, because I remember, I actually think it was where this picture was taken, and that might be about, I don't know, 4 or so hours in. We're completely soaked, and these bikes, like, when the sand gets really soft, you just come to a standstill and you just fall over. Like, it just happens and it's all good. It doesn't hurt, but you just end up absolutely covered in sand. And after the first 2 or 3 times, after the first time, it's just like, yeah, this is the way it's going to be for the next day or so, and that's okay. And Giorgio came out of this sort of checkpoint, and I don't know, I don't think I was there, mate, but he changed his clothes. Did you tell him to change his clothes? What happened?
The poor guy was scarred from not wearing InnerFight kit. And I think he'd already heard his nickname. That's
because you were so mean to him.
Hey, mate, I was a newbie. I said nothing. I was nice. And he was your mate. Because you'd invited him along. And I was like, oh, it's Marcus's mate. He's obviously good mates with him. He wouldn't invite him on a challenge if he's not. So, I was nothing but nice. And then, at about
That's
6
a fucking lie. Anyway, carry on.
Well, I didn't know him, and he's not Jack's mate. It's interesting, though, because as a group dynamic, you learn a lot about yourself, I think, when you're in situations like this. And you learn a lot. I learn a lot anyway about how other people react. And I don't want this to be a complete slate fest to Giorgio. Anyone that knows him knows he's actually a really top guy. But
he's a really nice guy.
he was really reacting to the wrong things. And so he's complaining about the sand. Well, we're in a desert, so that's not going to change. So there's no point in complaining about the sand, and then complaining about the bike as well, which the gears on it, which I can understand, but if there's no solution to fix, don't start complaining about it. And I know, mate, for you, and a lot of things you do, and I completely agree, is no talking is usually the best. And if you've got someone who's always talking and particularly always complaining, you tend to just not want to be near them. And so I think the group sort of started to split a little bit here. And by that, I mean, 3 of us rode off the front and 1 was left behind. And that's never a good way for it to go on challenges like this. And I think immediately then it was seen that, 1 of us wasn't going to get through this, and it wasn't the 3 at the front. Mm. And this point, I think we'd stopped. I think it was about 6 hours in. And he decided to change his kit. And it just made no sense at all. And then he said, I've got sand everywhere and I keep coming off and my gears are broken and that's why I'm falling off. So I'm going to just change into fresh kit. And so, we're just all eating and doing what we need to do, chatting to Brooksy, chatting to Carlin, having a laugh, and he gets his fresh kit on. And then you and Jack started to ride off. And I thought, I'll wait for him and ride with him for a bit and maybe find out what's really going on. And as we're setting off, he clips in. And obviously you're on sand, right? So there's no purchase to push off from. And so he clips in 1 foot, swings his leg over, goes to push. The back wheel just does nothing. And he just falls straight back over in the sand again.
Poor guy. Is that when you rode off?
And then I rode off because I couldn't stand around.
Far out.
I think at that point, you should just be left alone to deal with whatever you're going to do. You don't need anyone around you trying to pick you up. So I rode off, and then I think he began his decline into what ended up in a bent chainring and a fat bike being thrown into the back of a Raptor. Yeah. And that was the end of that. But it was interesting to watch. I learned from it for sure.
Yeah, I think it's true, mate. Like, in certain situations, people say things just because the silence maybe feels a bit awkward. And I think in those situations, look at old Cold Steel Brooksy there. He's very comfortable with silence. Like, there's just really no need to say anything. And it's almost, she's asleep now, so I can say it, but it's almost like having a fight with Holly. No matter what I say, I've said something wrong, so it's just better off to be quiet. But actually with her, I get in trouble for that. No. Anyway, we'll stop being mean. Mate, we got into quite a rhythm here. Like, we did that first couple of hours, and then I think we did another couple of hours. And then it was actually quite funny, wasn't it? Because the sweet spot was kind of like, it was almost an hour, I think, because I mean, I had a Garmin, but it was pointless anyway. Like I'd just try not to look at it. It would be on like no light. But yeah, I think we're riding about an hour at a time, and then having to refill with water because of the heat and because we've only got one water bottle holder, and get some food. And mate, I don't know if it was in the night where you actually started eating that stuff that we showed them, the ragag, and had some problems with it.
Yeah, there was a point. I had one of the best times that I've ever had on a bike between like 1 and 3 a.m. I can remember that because it was pitch black and I just had to follow a light of the Land Cruiser, of the Bedouin in the Land Cruiser. And because it's hard to explain the darkness if you've not been in it within a desert, but there is literally nothing, no light whatsoever, except for what is right in front of you. So you look left and you see pitch black, you look right, you see pitch black.
Yeah.
So it puts you into this focus state, doesn't it? That you really can't get anywhere else. It was nuts. And I remember going along and just singing out loud at the top of my voice, having the time of my life. And then decided to stop and eat ragag. And, well, fuck, it was not good. Basically the rest of the trip was just no one would go near me, was it?
It was
a danger zone.
No good crafting available at all, mate.
There's nothing like being knocked out of your flow by eating some dodgy cream cheese and honey pancakes.
I think though, mate, you're right. Like that was probably one of the most, like the first 6 or 7 hours was actually mayhem because we're literally just racing each other, and I don't know what would have happened if Giorgio hadn't have had issues and dropped, but I think one of us might have killed each other because it was sort of after that we maybe regrouped and said like, right, let's make sure that the three of us get to the end, you know. But it was crazy, mate. Like from that picture, folks can see it was completely black. Yeah. In for the most part during the night, I couldn't even see my legs. Like it was that black. You can see this light up front and a little bit of something, but nothing. And there's this, I don't know, it's a little bit difficult to describe. There's this insane feeling of just, I'm doing what I love doing. I'm in the middle of nowhere. No one needs to speak to me. I didn't even think about anything. You're just, like you said, mate, you're just in this wild state of flow. Yeah. Was it painful? I don't know. But it was wild. That was actually, I think that was my favorite time, like from about, 1 or 2 a.m. until, and then actually sunrise. Sunrise is always really good when you've gone through the night. It's like, because there's hard times. Like I think at 4 a.m. or something, I was like, I just don't want it to be dark anymore. I'm done with dark. Like it's been dark the whole time. I just want to, you know, and I was chilled about it. I didn't lose my shit. But I was just like, I just like it to be light now. And and then when that light started coming, I think this next shot is pretty early in the morning. And we can see, obviously you'd already taken up social distancing there due to your bowel issues. As always, Jack lives literally on my wheel. I think I've rode maybe 5,000-10,000 Ks with this guy, and he's always he was on my wheel when I had my crash.
I think one of the reasons you want it to be light again is because in the dark you cannot see what you're going to ride through.
Yeah.
And although we descended down to the sea, we almost had it was only about 400 meters difference in elevation gain and loss because we spent so much time climbing up sand dunes as well.
Yeah.
And so I can remember trying to figure out for the whole trip, I still don't know what the answer is, where the best place to ride is, whether it's on the side
that's right.
or whether it's in the middle. Like, I still can't tell you what the answer is, but I remember trying out as much as I could different areas because through the night, you spent most of your time on your side because you just kept hitting soft bits of sand and next thing you're just off.
How was it where you are there, mate? It looks like you're about half a bike length ahead of me.
Yeah, I'm definitely half wheeling you there.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Look like I'm just about to fall off. Jack's focused though.
Do you remember there was a bit where we had to do a big drops off sand dunes, and you didn't know at the bottom whether the sand was going to be hard or soft. And so you just stood at the top and then just let the brakes go. And you basically just had to assume that you were going to be fine. And if you weren't, then you were going over the handlebars.
There was a little bit of that at about 3 or 4 in the morning as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, pitch black. We had no idea what we were going into.
Yeah, that was fun. This next pitch is quite cool. It's just, I think this is the coffee story, mate. I think we should explain exactly what happened here.
I had a lesson in coffee. It was like, mate, do you want a coffee? And I thought that meant, like, do you want some of my coffee? So I was like, yeah, I'll have a coffee. And he goes, cool, the water's there to boil. And then, obviously you'll need to find some coffee beans. So I was like, oh yeah, sick. So I've like been looking around, and Jack, he's a good guy. He's like, yeah, you can have some of my coffee beans. I was like, okay, thanks, mate. And it was like, so all you need now is a cup.
Complete.
I think I took Giorgio's cup and had my first coffee of the day. It's a great coffee.
What have you learned from that, mate?
Mate, I always bring my own coffee now. And I love teaching that lesson to other people when they want a coffee as well.
It's true though. An interesting, and I think that's probably why I was laughing a lot in this picture, because when Jack and Tom and I ran across Wahiba on the first day, Otten said to me, he goes, mate, have you got some sunscreen? Like, yeah, bro, here you go. I gave him my sunscreen, and we did it over 3 days. On the second day, like, I got cooked on the first day. Arms are burnt. And I said to Otten, hey, mate, where's my sunscreen? He goes, I used it all yesterday. I was like, mate, are you kidding me? I'm absolutely toasted and no sunscreen. So, yeah, there was going to be no sharing my coffee with you, mate.
Yeah, and I think it's a lesson you need. I think everyone needs that lesson, to be honest.
I agree, mate. I think there's too much, there's way too much. I'll just get Uber. I'll just get this. I'll just get that. And I think we get lazy. And I think that, and this is probably a little bit deeper than this conversation's been so far, but that ownership, because we're getting lazy, because of the way we can have access to things, people don't own their shit enough. And, we need to. And on trips like this, if you're not, I had everything for me. And I know that sounds really selfish, but I can't worry about 3 other people. And I don't expect you to worry about me. Obviously, if you're going to a box of water, you're like, mate, do you want some water? We're not trying to kill each other. But, I think you've got to own, what you want. And then I think as well, it removes for me as well, it removes any opportunity for something to be someone else's fault. I now control all the variables that I can. If my bike breaks, that's fine. But if I run out of energy because I was reliant on you bringing me my ragag, then I'm an idiot, because you've got your own stuff. So I think that's a real transfer into what everyone does in everything is just, and what's that book by Jocko Wilkin, Extreme Ownership? It's pretty, the clue's in the title, but I think people need to own. And I was happy teaching you that lesson, mate.
Yeah, it was a good one to learn. I think, for me, it was one of my first times doing something like this, actually. I think it was certainly my first time going over 12 hours through something. And I was just so green. I just didn't know what to expect. Because the first challenge I did was the 50-50-50. And I couldn't believe how taken care of we were. I was like, we've got a bike, I've got a bloke chucking Volvic water bottles at me, I've got gels coming out my arse, this is unreal. And then into this, which is you need to be completely self-sufficient. And I actually loved it. I loved all of the lessons I took from it. And I knew going in that I'd have to just go in with the mindset of whatever I get here is a bonus. and I didn't expect anything. I think I had all the nutrition I needed with me, and obviously we'd arranged water, but nothing else was expected. I think you said to me as well, mate, you need to take what you need and don't rely on anything else to be there. But that you don't really understand what that means until you are somewhere where there is absolutely nothing else to get anything.
Yeah. I think, mate, the next one, I probably wasn't laughing so much. I think this is where I started to have some problems. And you obviously didn't care, out of the saddle, just gassing it. And I was not happy here, I don't think.
I was perking up, I think, at this time.
From the coffee.
Yeah, I was actually getting worried to myself because I didn't have a bad patch. Like, my guts were killing everything off within a 10-meter radius, but I myself was absolutely fine. My head was fine. I wasn't tired. And I can remember watching you descend into this very, very dark place and remember thinking, this guy is human. You know, he can have bad times. And I just remember looking and thinking, this is going to be very interesting of how it happens. And even Jack, I remember saying to me, just give him space, give him time, and he'll be good. And the one rule I knew, I just said to myself over and over again was just don't ask, how are you?
Hey, what's happened here? Sorry. It actually got a bit worse. I actually don't know. This was, I'm actually holding 1.5 liters of Coke for anyone that's trying to figure it out. And I'm obviously not in good shape. Whatever. That's boring.
You were not in very good shape at all.
He's here.
You were not in very good shape at all. During that picture, you weren't even looking around. I don't even think you recognize or realize that kid was standing there.
The cameraman has spoken.
I'll shut up and get off. But yeah, you weren't in good shape.
Hey, thanks for being here. As Colin just said that, it actually took me a little while to see that kid. And literally, we'd seen no one. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, what is this? How has he got here? Like, how is this? I was completely confused. And it sort of made me think. And I think we had maybe about 4 hours. We sort of calculated that there's maybe 4 hours to go. And I don't know if seeing him is definitely not the Coke. That's my story with Coke. For those that are interested, really quickly, I used to drink it when I was in school, and then I stopped one day, and literally I've had it in ultra events and never felt a benefit from it. But when you're down, you cling on to anything. And I just thought, this Coke's doing nothing. And I was like, this kid probably has never had Coke before. And I know it's not the right thing to do, but literally I just gave it to him. I was like, mate, take this. And then we got all the food that we had that we knew we weren't going to eat. And I was like giving it to him, and the guys were just giving him food. And I think that maybe distracted me. And then I was like, I'm okay. Like, I can go again. And it wasn't too long, was it, mate? And then this part started.
You had a puncture before then?
No, the puncher's later. It's coming.
Is it?
Yeah.
This was so tough. Like, we did the first half in 7 hours 40, and I think we got up to this point. We had the last 18K anyway. I looked. We averaged 6K an hour.
It's awful.
The final 10K took us 1 hour and 44, average of 5.5K an hour. And you've been talking about this wind. Yeah. You've been talking about the wind and these final 3 sand dunes. They were like bigged up in my head as being this incredible thing to get over. And I didn't big it up near half enough. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. 100%. And where was Jack?
Where was Jack at this point? I think he gassed us.
You punctured and he didn't wait.
Mile ahead of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Right
think he left there. Exactly. Yeah, this was wild. And I remember this from when I got rescued out, when I drove out, when we ran out, and then it got worse. They have quite bad cyclones down on that coast, and summer season is the season for cyclone, and the wind was just something. I mean, yeah, it's difficult then to explain exactly the angle here, because it looks like we're quite flat. Maybe if we take a decent cameraman next time, he might get us a decent shot and not make us look like absolute pussies for pushing our bikes on the flat. Mate, I know you're here, mate. I can heckle you. It's great.
I've got 2 bottles as well, mate. You've only got
one.
How's
that happened, by the way? What a stitch up. But yeah, I think it's something quite special when you have to get off a bike and push it up a hill that's a sandy hill in a set of road cycling shoes. It's like, I don't know if it's the high point of my cycling career or one of the lowest, but this was...
Do you remember the pain of the sand hitting your skin was next level as well.
It was real.
Yeah. It took us, well, this was the final 10K, wasn't it? I mean, it took us hours of walking like this to get anywhere. And you think, I can maybe pedal again. And you go to get back on and you'd start and it would just be no chance. Even the cars were struggling to get up some of the dunes.
Not the Raptor, though. The Raptor was all over it.
Right.
Shameless plug for Ford. But yeah, mate, actually the next picture which is quite wild as well, because this was probably within the last 5 to 10K. And Giorgio had a couple of mechanicals, and that's why his bike is there in the back of the trailer. But we'd really had no mechanical issues at all. And I don't know, somehow I managed to get a puncture. And that's when Jack just obviously had a gutful of hanging out with us. Didn't want to sit on my wheel anymore. And left us to it, right?
I think I had to turn around to come back and help as well, actually. I remember thinking, do I go or do I turn?
Wow.
And, I turned, mate. Do you remember that? Jack didn't. Jack.
Yeah, I think Jack had enough by then, hadn't he? I don't know. Yeah, that's the beach, isn't it? That was the end of it.
I'm still confused. I still don't really know what I've done at this point.
Right. I don't think any of us knew what was going on. That was interesting. You might see it. We're wearing gloves. Hands get completely numb from sitting on those bars. What's the stats on how long it actually took, mate? You've definitely got the data there.
Well, I think we both didn't feel our hands for the next week, and it was our 2 outside fingers took 2 to 3 weeks to come back around. Do you remember we were doing those stupid
we fixed by doing this shit.
I was wearing glasses all the time.
That's it, yeah.
Nerve flossing, yeah. And then the other thing was feet. I think my feet were numb for a while as well, but definitely hands. It was just dropping everything, so you can't grip anything afterwards because they've been holding on in one position for so long. And the way the bars are, because they're so wide, you're actually trapping a lot of nerves around your neck and shoulder area. Yeah. So it was wild.
It's not real comfortable there.
Jack's got another bottle there on the front as well, mate.
Yeah, mate, I'm noticing a lot of things that I haven't noticed. So basically, my story about only having 750 mils of water only applies to me. You guys had bloody loads.
That way, yeah.
Mate, what was the total time?
It was 18 hours, 30 something. Yeah, 18 hours, 30 something. It was 148 Ks. And we did the first half in 7 hours 44, and the second half took us 10 hours 48. So that shows you how hard the back half was.
How good the race was in the first half, you mean?
That's true.
That was the fun part. There's just one more slide, and maybe we can go into some Q&A if people want. And that's just to give these guys a massive shout. It's quite crazy, like thinking that two people would give up the amount of time that these guys gave up. They also didn't sleep the whole night, driving cars, making sure we've got water. It's incredible. Captain Brooks and Carlin, super awesome. And Carlin actually was there. Carlin's crossed Wahiba with me twice. He was there when we ran across it, and he was there when we cycled across it. And I think he's going to be there when we rollerblade across it, but I'm not sure yet how that might look.
Active recovery day.
Massive shout out to those guys. It's you can't cross a desert like that you could do if you just put water on your back, but it would make it. I actually think that desert's dangerous to do like that. I'm not sure if anyone's actually done it fully self-supported. You probably have to pull a sled through, wouldn't you, or something like that? You know.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. A sled.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that's the story. There's a couple of questions there. What was better, running or cycling? Pops, I think that one is it's a good question. They were totally different, to be honest. I enjoyed both in completely different ways. Running is slower, but not by much. So if you look at, if you hear what Tom said, like the average speed was like under 10 Ks an hour. When we sort of ran through it, actually a lot of it's just a trek, and that brings its natural challenges. But when we ran it, we actually split it on 3 days. But each day took about 10 to 12 hours. So the actual time that we were in the sun without sunscreen, thanks Otten again, was obviously a lot. So very different. More questions there.
Yeah, I got some good ones. What was the reasoning behind road pedals on a fat bike? The reasoning was I didn't own any mountain bike pedals, so it was going to be road.
Yeah, I didn't have any either. Actually, I think Jack had mountain bike shoes. That's why he gassed us as well at the end, because he was actually fully thumbs up.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So we just took the pedals off our bikes and put them on those bikes, and actually for the most part there was no real. I didn't have any problems with it. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, it was just kicking your cleat every time you wanted to put it back in the pedal because it was filled with sand. But you're taking your shoes off every hour anyway to pull the sand out, so it didn't really matter too much.
Amani's question, how did you manage with the lack of sleep and recovery, seeing that the training conditions were harsh? It's not very long that, like, you don't feel, you feel tired, mate, but it was only, so we left Dubai at about 5:30, 6 o'clock on the Thursday morning, I think, for argument's sake. Started on Thursday evening. But it's not, you don't, anything like, you need to go a lot longer to get the nasty impacts of sleep deprivation. And that system that we sort of got into, like an hour, 5 minutes to get water and food. Sometimes that would be 15 if Tom wanted to try and make a coffee. That wasn't really, the conditions are tough, but I think when we finished, we drove another 5 hours in the cars, didn't we?
I had a sleep, to be honest, mate. I slept all the way there, and I pretty much slept all the way home.
Worst passenger. That was terrible.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
You need to answer Brian's question there, mate.
Yeah, 100%. He poisoned me. Still, obviously, I'll always eat it because it's delicious, but yeah, it's the worst thing for your guts.
Andrea's question. I think we had it, but we had this like plan that there's so many calories in this ragag. It's just like Tom says, like a pancake, cream cheese and honey. And Jack found it on a previous trip that we've done going down there. He stopped for breakfast and he's like, this guy says he's got breakfast. And I'm like, are you going to eat it, mate? He goes, let's see what it is. And he brought it out and I was like, oh, that looks all right. He goes, mate, taste it. It's amazing. And literally I went straight back in and got 2 more for both of us. And I guess we've been hooked ever since. Every time we go to Oman, we get it. But so we had this vision that it'd be really good, like as fuel, but it's terrible cold. It just goes like, oh mate, I don't know. I can't describe it. It's awful, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't mind the taste too much, to be fair. It's just what it does to your guts, I think, once it gets in there. It just wasn't good, was it? None of us were enjoying it. I think maybe I ate one. You guys had like half of a bit, and that was it. It was. It's probably not the best sports nutrition. It's probably better for afterwards because it's so high in calories and fat, really, isn't it? Because it's just that mix and cream cheese. And there was one we found one on the way home with Nutella, didn't we? I think Brooksy smashed
like the posh guys do Nutella as well, and it's real good. It's real good with Nutella.
Good. Here's one for you, mate. Was it difficult mentally to leave the 4th guy behind, or did he handle it well?
For me, mentally, it wasn't hard because he was. Actually, Brooksy caught up to me and he's like, "Mate, Giorgio's out," and I'm like, okay, let's keep going. Is he, I think the first thing I would always ask in those situations, like, is he safe? You know, and Brooks, I think Brooksy quite smugly said, yeah, Carlin's taking care of him. Listen, this makes Giorgio sound bad, but when things are not going well, if something's going really well in a group of 4, and you lose someone, then it's tough to deal with because that person's really important to the group. But when the energy of someone in the group is not like, and he said afterwards, he just wasn't ready for it. You're almost happy that it's gone because Jack and I and Tom, we understood what was going on and everything was cool at every checkpoint. And, you know, Jack doesn't say much. Tom was too new to talk, so no one was annoying anyone, and it was just all, you know. So when you've got someone that's falling over in sand, it's like, yeah, mate, we're all falling over in sand. So it was a bit of a relief, I think, and I actually genuinely think it was a relief for him. And after, I think within a couple of hours, he was actually super, super helpful. You can see him in one of those pictures. I think it was when we were making coffee. Like, he was there every time we stopped. And the greatest thing is he had all his nutrition. So he had loads of food. He had an ice box full of like ice cold drinks. So we were just drinking his stuff when we needed it. And he was really cool. Yeah.
He was actually super helpful.
He was really, really helpful. And I think he was obviously gutted and he felt like he'd let us down and he'd let himself down. But it all worked out good in the end.
I think that's one of the reasons I always try and question someone as much as I can if they want to drop out of something, because you're always going to regret it after you've done it. So it's like, are you actually at the end of what you can handle? Because if you do drop out now, and especially for him, he couldn't go home. He had to sit and watch us for the next 10 hours. You know, like,
worst thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's a good, it was good to go through. And I'm sure for him as well, because I bet he doesn't bail on things as easily as he did before, because he knows what it's like to have to sit through and watch other people complete what you were supposed to do.
I bet he doesn't ever change his cycling kit in the middle of the desert again either. Do you want to get that next one from Najla, mate?
Yeah, I think I could pretty much answer this through what I was at the time. I wasn't 18 hours fit. I was racing half Ironman, so I was 4 to 5 hours fit, and it was an 18-hour trip. So it's 100%, well, not 100, but it's all, majority is mental strength in those situations, and probably quite naive to it. I didn't really know what what I was doing. I just knew I was going to go ride my bike, and it was literally as simple as that. Ride your bike, and every hour you're going to stop, have some water, and eat something. Don't say anything stupid, and have a good time. And I just kept that on my mind the whole time. And physically, I never got worried about it because I knew I would just keep riding my bike. I knew it was going to be safe because I was with a good group of guys, and it wasn't really down to worrying about physically, am I going to get through this? It was more mental, and that's where I really focused my strengths on was the mental strength side. So I think for those such things, it is mental. Don't know what you think, mate.
Yeah, I think it is a good point. Like these challenges, yeah, you need to be fit and stuff like that, but it's an adventure. It's not like, yeah, you feel the pressure and yeah, you need to dig deep, but it's an adventure. Like it's exciting. You're going out with 3 or 4 mates, like pitch black at night. No one really knows what's going to happen. It's super fun. And that's what makes it, yeah, of course, if you're not physically fit, you're going to suffer. But that's what makes these challenges, like going out in these places, and even if it's running through different places, like it's just so much fun. Like I almost wanted to sleep a little bit and turn around and ride back again, because like you just, all right. And I was in hell for 3 or 4 hours. But aside from that, you're just talking shit, you're having fun, and we got a good group. Like, I mean, spend 12 hours in a car with Brooksy, like, you know, or with Carlin or whoever, you know, and you just have so much fun. And I think that's why these sorts of things are important for people. Like, it's very good to race. It's very good to have really aggressive racing goals, but I think it's really important to have just, might seem silly or just out there adventure goals as well. Like we're supposed to be in Pakistan right now, just running around, looking at stuff, you know, and we just wanted to make an adventure from that. And, you know, and so the physical strength is important, but the mindset's super important. And the mindset of going into something as well, picking the right people. And then, you know, if one of us was not in good shape for a while, we could stop, we could change things a little bit. I think when we were running across it, Jack got really sick. He had like diarrhea for, you know, and he was vomiting, like he got heat stroke. So the second day we just had to alter the distance that we ran a little bit, and that's absolutely fine. And it's a little bit more of a mindset and an approach to an adventure opposed to race. So definitely use all of your leave either for races or adventures. No relax time.
Mate, good one from Brian. He said, do you reflect on your mantras when you have someone like me scared to talk about water?
No, I think we're doing everything right if we're creating that kind of environment.
Yeah, and obviously I did have 2 bottles, so I must have been all right. I think that's an interesting point. It was like, you know, I just didn't want to be like, oh, I'm running low. Should we call them up soon? Because it's almost a too obvious point. It's like, yeah, we're all going to be drinking water, so we should all wait. You know, we're all going to roughly run out at the same time. Let's wait for it to come through. But I just remember at the time thinking, I'll wait for the boss to make the call and not me. So, yeah.
I think that's it. It's a little bit difficult because, like Tom said a few times, you don't want to be whinging, and it's early, and like it's all about the energy in the group. So that you got to find a way to sort of figure out if someone has got water, and, you know, also be smart about it. But yeah. And
I hear what you're saying. It's just interesting from a perspective of the group and the leadership point of view that everybody gets wound up in the goal so much that they will subjugate their actual base physical needs.
Yeah.
And, it was a semi-serious question to consider that from the perspective of, hey, you know, this is a new guy and he's not done as much bashing across the desert.
I think it's a good point, because you don't want to, you don't want to be in a situation, because that's not a healthy group dynamic either, is it? Like to not be able to say, mate, my water's finished. I think he's actually dramatizing it a little bit to make it look
I remember you taking the bottle out of my hand and
exactly. But then we've seen his bike, and he had 2 bottles, and Jack has one at the front, and I've only got 1. So, Andrea, sorry, mate, go.
I was going to say, I think it's more to the point of making sure your group is sorted before you start the challenge like that. You know, like, I think you'd obviously known me long enough to want to invite me on something like that. And so you can't invite people that you think you're going to have to baby along. And obviously I wouldn't have been stupid enough to completely run out of water and keel over without saying anything. But if you are going to go on adventures, I think this is something that I see quite a lot, is people want to go and do things, but they always want to do it with someone else. And kind of like we were saying, mate, with like your kit and things, like being prepared, is you should want to do that adventure, whether you do it on your own or whether you do it with other people, not base it around just having other people with you.
Yeah.
I think that's quite an important point. So like other people can add to it and bring you benefit, but it shouldn't be based on like, no one was in charge. Do you know what I mean? We were all there to do our own adventure, as it were, but we were all there as a group because it made more sense to all do it together. But it wasn't like, okay, this is what we're doing and I'm in charge. It was just like, we're going from A to B. And if you want to do it, then come along. This is the time we're going to do it.
Andrea, we wanted to finish it as soon as possible. We talked when we were running with Jack and Otten about like how fast these bikes go. And, you know, we're like, yeah, they'll go 20 k's an hour and you'll finish this in blah, blah, blah. And yeah, the reality was different. And I think we went in with the mindset just to ride it as fast as we could. And I don't think we could have ridden it that much faster on that particular day, to be honest. So
we could have been better with the brakes, like the stops. We could have been faster, but riding, we were flat out as much as we could be.
It's crazy. You literally, you're going full gas. You don't, and this is the cool thing about those bikes. Like your measure of effort on a bike is removed. Watts is not there. So you don't know how much power you're putting in. You can only see your heart rate just going up and up and up. And you're working super hard and you'll look at your Garmin and you're going 13 kilometers an hour. And it's just like, really? All this effort and I'm going at this speed. And because we hadn't been on those bikes much, we're like, well, this is what it is. And I think I'm goal orientated, but the goal that day was to get across as fast as possible. And along the way, we had to define what as fast as possible is. And I think, the only way that we could have gone, like, we didn't stop when Giorgio was having problems with his bike. Carlin helped him. Me, Jack, and Tom kept going. And then he caught up with the bike in the back of the Raptor. So, you know, later on, I shouldn't be sat there with a bottle of Coke, but I was cooked. So what could I have done? It's a really interesting question. I think the goal was to go as fast as we could, and I think we went as fast as we could at that time. Will we go back and try and go faster? Probably. I might, Jack saying no. I might take that bike that I took out to the desert the other week with the engine on it that Colin broke.
I remember thinking I want to go back and do that faster. I remember thinking we could go faster there.
Yeah.
I haven't got around to it.
I also think it goes back to what I was saying before. It was just like a little adventure. Yeah, we were bike fit for what distance? Not for that distance across the desert, but it's just nice to go with some mates and go on an adventure and, you know, have highs and have a few lows and learn a couple of things. And the time goal, like, you always want to be feeling that you can push as hard as you can, but is that the most important thing? Not really, you know. Otherwise I might have taken spare wheels for punctures, and I actually don't think I even took a toolkit. I think we had like 2 spare tubes or something stupid like that. It was dumb. I think that's why Giorgio couldn't fix his bike, because he didn't have any tools or something. Isn't that right, mate?
Yeah, I reckon. Knowing me, I probably took Allen keys and some tape. That's about it.
Gaffer tape.
Yeah, we didn't have chains. We didn't have chains or jockey wheels or anything like that you'd normally have on something like that.
Yeah, that's Wahiba. Who wants to go? Jack.
Hold it.
Jack wants to go back. It's amazing. It really is an incredible desert, and it's door to door. It's about, I don't know, 8 hours driving. So, and actually the one massive positive thing, it wasn't quite as hot as we thought it might be. We went in August, and it wasn't really super hot, was it? It didn't get like 40. I don't know. It didn't get past 45. So I don't.
No, I looked at my data on Training Peaks, and it said max temp was 40, and like average was low 30s. So it was all right.
That was the only disappointment. I would have liked it if it was hotter.
You were in enough trouble as it was, mate. Brooksy, how good was the bed at the hotel? It was better than the Wi-Fi.
I had the room with this guy. It was stinky. Cool. There we go. It's probably enough, unless anyone's got any more questions. But thanks for listening, and hopefully we'll do some more good trips.
We will. That looks like it's it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming along.
Cheers.